do so by mail. Now, let me introduce you to the candidates and student moderators. Tonight's debate will be between Michelle O of the Democratic Party and Matt Reeves of the Republican Party. Student moderators Ashu Chakragiri and Akhila Yellapragada will be asking questions of the candidates. Other members of the 2020 Johns Creek Ambassador team who helped put this debate together are Aditi Mohan, Elizabeth Douglas, Janice Nam, Mehar Nemani, Omer Mujawer, and Davalbhakta. I would like to thank Tina Dong of the 2019 Secretary of State Ambassadors who helped us immensely through the process. Special thanks to Mrs. Irene Sanders, our team sponsor, for her guidance and dedication to the community. We couldn't have done this without you. Now a few housekeeping rules. The debate will begin with the opening statements from both candidates, where they will have 2 minutes to explain why they chose to run and why they are fit for this position. Following the opening statements, each candidate will be given 90 seconds to answer a select question from our moderators. The other candidate will then receive 60 minutes for rebuttal, followed by the first candidate's final rebuttal of 60 seconds. At the end of the debate, both candidates will be given 2 minutes for closing statements. We will not be accepting any audience questions during today's debate, but feel free to email the candidates after the event with any questions you may have. Now, please, in order to keep the debate moving, we ask the candidates keep the questions within the time limits. I wish both of you good luck and let the debate commence. So we'll now begin with opening statements. Candidates, as a reminder, you have 2 minutes to deliver your statements in which we ask you to include an answer to the following question. What motivated you to run for office? And if elected, how would you serve your community? Candidate O, since your name comes first alphabetically, you may have the floor first. Your time starts now.
Thank you to Student Leadership Johns Creek for hosting this event and inviting me. I really appreciate you stepping up to moderate this debate. As we saw with the first presidential debate last week and also last night with the VP debates, it's really not an easy task to do. So I really commend you for doing this work and making sure our community can get to know all their state legislative candidates better. So my name is Dr. Michelle Au. I'm a frontline physician. I have a master's degree in public health, and I've been taking care of patients in the community for more than a decade now. My family and I live in Johns Creek, as we were talking about before, where my children all attend public school in the area, specifically Johns Creek High School, Autry Mill Middle School, and Wilson Creek Elementary. Being a doctor is an incredible privilege. It's a profession where every day I get to work with people of all ages, from all walks of life, from all over the world, and in their most vulnerable moments, know that I can solve difficult problems and help them in an incredibly meaningful way. As a doctor, I've also realized that by the time my patients get to me, if they can get to me at all, it's really too late to fix many of the problems that made them sick in the first place. And while we can do surgery and prescribe medications or recommend therapies, these are really just band-aids on a larger problem that we don't have the power to heal at the bedside. Because these larger issues that determine a community's health include things like access to healthcare and insurance. They include things like equal access to quality education, economic opportunity, social and racial equity. These are the larger forces that we in the public health sphere call the social determinants of health. And improving on these factors is why I'm running to be your next state senator. My entire adult life, I've fought to build healthier, stronger communities. And as your next state senator, I will never give up that fight for you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Candidate O. Now, Candidate Reeves, you may deliver your opening statement. Your time starts now.
Thank you, Johns Creek Student Leadership. I really enjoyed the program that you hosted earlier this year at Sancrati Restaurant with the Fulton County Superior Court judges. That was very impressive and informative. Thanks for that service to the community. Also, 2 years ago in person at Northview High School, you did a great job with the House debate. Thank you for keeping things going with the virtual debate this year. This week, I got a chance to go to the Capitol and meet with the President of the Senate, the Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, who is a Chattahoochee High School alum. He played baseball there and at Georgia Tech and in the minor leagues. I told him what you all are doing, and he was proud that his old area has such great leaders, and that's encouraging to me and him about the future. And as a matter of fact, with him being a baseball player, I got 4 baseballs signed by him, 1 for each of the 4 Student Leadership Johns Creek schools, and I'm going to get those to you. But thanks for your leadership. As we recover from this global coronavirus pandemic, there are some important decisions to be made about the future of our community, and the state Senate impacts that. We have some choices to make, and I want us to have the strongest voice possible down the state Senate. The state Senate has 35 Republicans and 21 Democrats. I've been reaching out to independents, nonpartisans, libertarians, centrists, both Democrat and Republican. And I think I could do a better job for our community down there on the Republican side of the aisle. I want us to win votes in Johns Creek and in Alpharetta and in Gwinnett County and not lose votes. I want us to have the strongest voice possible. I've lived right next door in Duluth for the last 17 years with my wife, Suzette, my 3 kids, 2 of whom are teenagers like you all are. And then my mother-in-law lives right down the road. So like a lot of families in North Fulton and Gwinnett, we've got 3 generations right here. We're all in on our community. I've got some experience at the state capitol, worked as a House Judiciary Chair. I look forward to your questions tonight. I hope to earn your support as a bipartisan problem solver.
That is your time.
Thank you.
All right, so I'd now like to give it over to Ashu and Akhila, who will begin asking questions of the candidates.
Candidate Reeves, since the Paycheck Protection Program Act recently expired, there's a definite possibility for potential layoffs. Already Coca-Cola and Delta Airlines, both Atlanta-based companies, have announced major layoffs. How would you handle a potential surge in unemployment due to this act expiring and ensure that the state is prepared? You have a minute and a half to respond.
That is a very critical question. Number one, the PPP program was golden. I remember how miserable it was during the recession from 2008 to 2013 when small business people in our community were left on their own. It was miserable. It hurt property values. It ruined a lot of dreams. There was a lot of pain. So the key word in small business these days is pivot. I want to help working people and small businesses to pivot in this uncertain time where we've got global coronavirus pandemic as well as a lot of social unrest. We need to, number one, keep health at the forefront. Let's make sure we're healthy. Number two, let's make sure that we regrow the economy safely and that we're leaders in that. Number three, let's keep young people's education strong and safe. The next District 48 State Senator is going to have a lot of things to do, and it really could make a difference on whether we have a strong job market or a weak one. We've been blessed to be number one in jobs in Georgia for the last 10 years, and I want to keep that up. I don't want to make a hard left turn into big government, taxes and regulation. In Georgia, we may need to go it alone and have our own miniature state version of PPP if Washington keeps on with the partisan pandemic bickering and partisanship. I'm a bipartisan problem solver. I want to make sure the hotel industry and other small business industries have support from the state of Georgia so they can recover safely.
Thank you, Candidate Reeves. Candidate O, I'll repeat the question. Since the Paycheck Protection Program Act recently expired, there's a definite possibility for potential layoffs. Already Coca-Cola and Delta Airlines, both Atlanta-based companies, have announced major layoffs. How would you handle a potential surge in unemployment due to this act expiring and ensure that the state is prepared? You have 1 minute to respond.
This is an incredibly important question. As a small business owner myself, we've also had to avail ourselves of PPP and the CARES Act in order to keep our small business afloat. Focusing on supporting small business through this pandemic is going to be critically important for economic recovery, and here's how we're going to be able to do that. First of all, Georgia leaves millions of dollars in revenue through special interest tax loopholes, including having the lowest tobacco taxes in the nation. If we can raise the tobacco tax to at least the national average, this revenue that we gain could be going towards reducing our overall tax burden for small businesses, as well as funding small business relief and healthcare, as well as education. I believe that supporting direct measures to help small businesses during COVID-19 recovery is going to be critically important. I think it's not something we're paying enough attention to, including stimulus payments, grants, and tax credits. I also think that states need to help small businesses get PPE and other modifications to reopen safely and to be able to re-enter the business. Our small businesses have been overburdened with the cost of maintaining these public health measures, and if we want to reopen safely, this is something we have to do to invest in our own economy.
Thank you, Candidate O. Candidate Reeves, you have 1 minute remaining to respond.
Sure. One good thing, one frustrating thing with COVID is we've had to learn as we go. We now have the benefit of over 6 months. We have 200 countries. We have 50 states. Some have done a better job than others. One good thing about our area is we have a worldwide perspective. I like the job they've done in South Korea. I like the job they've done in Taiwan. I think we need to look to other countries in addition to other states and look for places where there's room for improvement. Last week, I attended a county commission candidate forum in Gwinnett County where both the Democrat and Republican candidate are friends of mine. I got some good ideas from them as they're at ground level hearing from small businesses. Defer taxes and license fees. Find small ways to support working people. Let's have transparency on data. There are some hospitals in Metro Atlanta who are hoarding COVID data. Let's get it all out there and get all the statistics there. Let's be supportive, but biggest, don't turn to big government, taxes and regulation. Let's support small businesses and not pressure them and put burdens on them. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Reeves. Candidate Au, this question is for you. Georgia is ranked 31st in pre-K through 12 and 25th in higher education. What do you plan to do to strengthen our educational standards and ensure that our children receive the best educational opportunities?
So thank you for that question. My family moved out to Johns Creek more than 6 years ago for one primary reason: the excellent public school system. We strongly believe that the excellence of public schools ensures that every student can get a world-class education, regardless of their means. And it's really one of the important ways to build social equity from the ground up. Okay. So at present, as I mentioned, I have one kid each in middle school, elementary school, and high school. We have not regretted that decision at all to move out here. But not every school is as well resourced as the ones in our district, right? And with the recent budget that was just passed in the legislative session, which ended in June, they cut nearly $1 billion from public school funding. So there's no doubt that our communities and our kids are going to feel this impact. So I'm committed to fully funding our public schools, identifying additional resources in the ways I've mentioned, rolling back measures that drain funds from the public school system, and ensuring that all school employees have competitive salaries and benefits so we can retain talent, as well as ensuring a safe work environment. I'm sure that's on everyone's mind, the return to school and how we can get back there safely. When a society feels that something is important, we need to invest in it, not just with lip service, but with actual resources. I'm proud to have been endorsed by the Georgia Association of Educators and the Gwinnett Association of Educators, and I look forward to working with them to continue improving our school systems. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Candidate Au. Candidate Reeves, I'll repeat the question for you. Georgia is ranked 31st in pre-K through 12 and 25th in higher education. What do you plan to do to strengthen our educational standards and ensure that our children receive the best educational opportunities? You have 1 minute to respond.
There is no issue that separates me and my opponent any more than higher ed. At the United Peachtree Corner Civic Association debate, which is up on the internet, I took a strong stand in favor of strengthening the merit-based HOPE grant, and my opponent is against that. And the HOPE grant has been the best thing the state of Georgia has done over the last 25 years. It has been such a benefit to college students and family budgets. I want to keep the merit-based HOPE grant solvent and strong. Secondly, I want to support a bill that's in the Senate to make early admissions in college admissions 90% for Georgia, just like they do in North Carolina and other states. That would benefit students from North Fulton and Gwinnett. Third, fully funding the QBE formula. That was done under Governor Deal for the first time. That had been around since the 1980s. The Democrats for 20 years failed to fund it. We were #1 in jobs, and that's what provided the funding for the QBE formula. That's the recipe for success. Let's have a strong job market and get our young people educated.
Thank you, Candidate Reeves. Candidate Au, you have 1 minute remaining to respond.
Thank you. My opponent misrepresents my position. I think the HOPE Scholarship is truly a gift in the state to ensure that talented students with great potential can have the opportunity to receive assistance to attend higher education in Georgia. I do continue to support merit-based scholarships for high-achieving students. However, I also propose funding need-based scholarships as authorized by the Georgia General Assembly in 2018 for students from lower-income families who need assistance to attend college. And here is why. It's never been more apparent than during this current public health crisis that the economic inequities inherent in our education system are paramount. It's been particularly obvious during this long stint of virtual learning since this spring. Some students, like my own kids, did well with virtual learning, but some of their peers had a more difficult time because it's difficult without access to computers or broadband connectivity to make this experience work. So it's simplistic just to say that merit-based is the only way to go, because we know that other students are also worthy of academic scholarships, and a just society ensures that all bright students, regardless of their social circumstance, have the ability to achieve that full potential. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Candidate.
Candidate Reeves, according to a recent flyer from your campaign, you believe the HOPE scholarship should remain merit-based. Do you see any option to add a need-based component or change the Hope Scholarship standards? If so, what and how would you fund that? If not, why not?
Number one, the Hope Grant was enacted 25 years ago with the lottery as a bargain of promoting hard work in higher ed. If students work hard and make good grades, it is a merit-based scholarship. There are separate funds for the Hope Grant and sources of funds, and they've been stretched very heavily because it's been such a successful program, and it is under constant fiscal stress, as well as attacks from the left who want to make it turn into another entitlement program. So the Hope Grant, in order to remain solvent, not to go bankrupt, must remain merit-based. If it is watered down and diluted and rated, it will go broke and it will no longer be there for the students who work hard for it. There are many other need-based scholarships, both in four-year colleges as well as our technical schools. Gwinnett Technical School now has 10,000 students learning law enforcement, nursing, and many other professions. So there are other need-based programs. One was mentioned earlier. While I support other need-based programs, the Hope Grant is a specific program with a bargain that has a very tight equilibrium. It could be disrupted and bankrupted in a year or two if people try to take a leftward turn. So I will protect the merit-based Hope Grant because you all have worked hard. Your family budgets depend on it. If it goes away, that'd be a tragedy. Let's support the merit-based Hope Grant.
Thank you, Kenneth Reeves. Kenneth Au. According to a recent flyer from candidate Reeves' campaign, he believes the Hope Scholarship should remain merit-based. Do you see any option to add a need-based component or change the Hope Scholarship standards? If so, what and how would you fund that? And if not, why not? You have 1 minute to respond.
Yes, I do support adding a need-based component, as we've noted. I think it's simplistic, again, to say that smart students who make the grades are the only ones worthy of academic scholarships, because we know that working hard and being smart aren't the sole determinants of success, right? As a matter of social equity, we should ensure that bright, promising students without all the social advantages that everyone has access to the same opportunities. That, in fact, is the concept inherent in the American dream. So again, I support adding a need-based Hope Scholarship to the merit-based pool we already have. In terms of how to fund it, again, we have a lot of tax loopholes. The tobacco tax, again, could be raised, and some of that money could be shunted towards educational opportunities. We need to restore hope-based grants at technical college and student associate degrees so that there's more paths for students to achieve employment and success, as Mr. Reeves noted. And I think it's just the job of a just society to enable everyone to be able to succeed. And this is an investment from our state, showing what our priorities truly are.
Thank you, candidate O. Candidate Reeves, you have 1 minute to respond.
Where's the money going to come from? The Georgia lottery has provided money for the Hope Grant, and people reluctantly voted for the lottery as a trade-off for a merit scholarship. And the tobacco tax, that has nowhere near enough money to fund college as an entitlement program. There are other sources of funding that are need-based, federal as well as state. I talked to a member of the Board of Regents. There is a matching program where universities and locals partner and have mentoring in high school for at-risk students, and there are funds there. But I'm a pragmatist. I'm a practical problem solver. I am not an ideologue, and just to change a successful program after 25 years out of ideology, that's not the way that I operate or state government operates. You got to reward hard work, common sense, and if you're going to change a program, you got to identify the funding source. The tobacco tax has nowhere near enough money.
Okay, Kenneth Au. You mentioned on your website, outforga.com, that you, as a small business owner, support policies that, quote, make it easier for small businesses to flourish by ensuring a fair approach to taxes, healthcare costs, and worker training. Firstly, could you please outline specific details about this fair approach and what you would include or support in bills regarding small businesses? Secondly, could you please outline specifics on how you would help small businesses that are struggling during this pandemic?
Thank you for that question. I think, especially in this moment, focusing on small businesses and getting them through the pandemic, especially the ones that are having a particularly difficult time, such as in the hospitality industry, it's going to be critically important for economic recovery moving forward. Here are some of my strategies to do just that. First of all, again, this issue of leaving millions of dollars in revenue on the table, not just through the tobacco tax, but also through special interest loopholes for corporations. This is money that we could be recouping and spending on things like helping small business tax breaks, education, public health, these types of things. I propose that we modernize the tax code so that less of the tax burden is on small business owners, and this would make it less complicated for small businesses to flourish. I also support direct measures to help small businesses during COVID-19 recovery, including, as I mentioned before, stimulus payments, tax credits, grants. Our state should also be aware that small businesses are really struggling in order to open safely during the pandemic. So helping them get PPE and other modifications to reopen safely is going to be critical. Finally, and most importantly, we really need to leverage federal aid, including full Medicaid expansion, which would save the state more than $3 billion and help reduce our overall insurance premiums and our state healthcare costs, including for small businesses. We as taxpayers already pay for this money in federal tax dollars, and it's only right that that money return to our state to help our own citizens and help our small businesses.
Thank you, candidate Au. Candidate Reeves. According to candidate Au's website, as a small business owner, she supports policies that, quote, make it easier for small businesses to flourish by ensuring a fair approach to taxes, healthcare costs, and worker training. We asked her to outline specific details about this fair approach and what she would include or support in bills regarding small businesses. We also asked that she outline specifics on how she would help small businesses that are struggling during this pandemic. You have 1 minute for your response to her answer.
For the last 17 years, I've worked with small business people every day in Gwinnett and North Fulton. I've been a member of the North Fulton Chamber of Commerce Board for over 5 years, recently rolled off of that. I've been endorsed by the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. So by far, I am more acquainted with the needs of small businesses. I don't think any small business person in Johns Creek or Gwinnett County says they want to move their workforce and themselves onto Medicaid. That's unbelievable that that's what my opponent says she wants to do. As far as small business, we've been #1 in jobs for most of the last 10 years. I want to keep us on that track and be even more favorable to small business. I want to keep the tax burden low. I want to keep the regulatory burden low and support our small businesses. And also, Washington promised health insurance 10 years ago. They failed. I want Georgia to deliver where Washington's failed and help people get more health insurance rather than putting them on Medicaid. Also, small business, that's my world.
That is your
Candidate Reeves, thank you for your response. Candidate Au, you have 1 minute remaining to respond.
Thank you for giving me time to rebut. Again, my opponent misclarifies my position. When I say we need to leverage federal aid, including fully expanding Medicaid, this is a way to get more state dollars back to where we need it to loosen up more money to help small businesses. Medicaid expansion would take the burden off of healthcare costs in our state to the tune of $3 billion. Everyone keeps asking, where's this money coming from? Having more money come in towards our healthcare in our state during a pandemic is going to loosen up money elsewhere for other COVID relief measures, including towards small businesses. I'm not suggesting that all businesses put their employees on Medicaid. That actually doesn't even make any sense. And we can talk more about how Medicaid works and how Medicaid expansion works a little bit later. But this is a measure that leverages federal aid that is due to us. And in this time when we're thinking about healthcare costs overall and in helping our state become healthier and a more fertile environment for employees to flourish, that's something I'm talking about.
Thank you, candidate Au.
Thank you. Candidate Reeves, given the current state of division within political parties, what are some specific steps you would take to bridge the divide?
Well, one of the issues that I've promoted is nonpartisan local offices and nonpartisan school board offices and term limits. I think that giving everyone a seat at the table in our diverse community in Gwinnett County and North Fulton, #1, it'll prevent us from repeating the mistakes of the past in DeKalb County where they turned to one-party big government that messed up a once great school system in DeKalb County as well as reduced public safety. I think that independents, nonpartisans, every ethnic group, every geographic area of Gwinnett and North Fulton need to have a seat at the table. That will bridge a lot of divides. It will make sure no one is neglected. It is not a new issue for me. I have the bill signing pen from Governor Deal from when magistrate court and probate court in Gwinnett County were changed from being partisan to nonpartisan. I was called upon in a small group of leaders who helped make that happen. It served the people well in Gwinnett and North Fulton. The county budgets in Gwinnett and North Fulton are now multi-billion-dollar budgets. And I think having good government at the local level and responsive good government will be a benefit. Also, you know, ethics in government is something that I've promoted. I think getting people in public service who are there not to fight for special interest groups and surprise medical billing and defend that, but to serve the people. That's what will heal the divide.
Thank you, candidate Reeves. Candidate O, I'll repeat the question. Given the current state of division within political parties, what are some specific steps you would take to bridge the divide? You have 1 minute to respond.
So as a physician, I do the following 2 things every single day. The first thing is that I solve complex problems. The second thing I do is I work as part of a team, and not everyone on that team always agrees. However, my approach is that my goal above all is to find workable solutions. I'm not locked into ideology. I'm not locked into partisanship, nor do I expect to get every single item I want when working towards these solutions, right? I always try to listen. I try to compromise on some points, and I try to get as close as possible to being able to do the most good for the greatest number of people and leave the labels aside. Because it's more important than just labels, it's more effective than divisiveness, and that's what I feel we've been missing in this era of hyperpartisan politics.
Thank you, candidate O. Candidate Reeves, you have 1 minute to respond.
Let's make it clear. My opponent is a for-profit anesthesiologist, a secondary health care provider, not a primary care physician, not a public health official. So she gets brought in by other primary care physicians to do anesthesiology. That is a talent, it's a skill set, but it's not like we got Dr. Fauci on the other side. I want to clarify that. To heal the divide, I've run a bipartisan campaign. I've been engaged. I've been accessible. I have reached out. Look on my opponent's wall. She tweeted out to liberal friends, that's a blue wave. That's the whole theme of her campaign. It's been targeted to liberal, left-wing issues. I've been a bridge builder, nonpartisan, good government, fiscal conservatism. I've focused on common ground and common sense and bipartisan problem solving from start to finish in this campaign. I don't tell one group one thing and then come on to the Johns Creek student leadership and say another. So let's have bipartisan problem solving.
I'm sorry, can I respond to that?
In the interest of time, we'd like to move on to the next question, please.
All right.
Okay, thank you, candidate Reeves. Candidate Au, if you're granted the ability to push through one piece of legislation with no barriers, a guaranteed passage through both the House and Senate and the governor's signature, what would it be and why?
So the one piece of legislation I'd push through at this point is Medicaid expansion. At this point, more than 10 years after the passage of the Affordable Care Act, expanding Medicaid is simply a no-brainer. The best way to reason through this in a bipartisan way is to frame it as a fiscal solution to an expensive problem. There's no doubt that expanding the ability for uninsured people to access basic preventative health care and medication saves the state money, and it also ensures a healthier workforce. Preventative care is almost always cheaper than catastrophic care that I see at the hospital a lot, and it's better for our patients and better for our communities. Also, Medicaid expansion is a good deal for us. Full expansion of Medicaid is 90% subsidized by the federal tax dollars we've already paid, and it's only covered 10% by the state. Okay, so some have argued that even this 10% that the state would have to bear is too much, we can't afford it. So let me just point out a few things. First, expanding Medicaid eligibility allows states to cut spending in other parts of their more expensive Medicaid programs. Number two, Medicaid expansion allows states to cut spending outside of Medicaid, particularly on programs that provide health services to low-income individuals. Third thing, Medicaid expansion might increase state revenues because when new money enters a state's economy, it boosts employment and income. Finally, I'm going to point out that the strategies to increase coverage in other ways, for example, Governor Kemp's Medicaid waiver plan actually ends up costing the state more money without all the economic benefits described above. So again, it's a no-brainer. And, you know, I think that Mr. Reeves has to pick a side. If he's going to point at this and say that I'm a left-leaning big government person, he maybe also shouldn't say that I'm a special interest person looking to line my own pocket.
That's your time.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you, candidate Au. Candidate Reeves, we asked candidate Au if she were granted the ability to push through one piece of legislation with no barriers, a guaranteed passage through the House and Senate, and the governor's signature, what would it be and why? You have 1 minute for your response to candidate O.
Well, tailoring it to the state Senate, when I was the House Judiciary Committee lawyer, we had about 1,300 bills that went through. So you don't get to wave the magic wand. You've got to multitask down there at the Capitol. So a couple of things are high priorities. I want to get the 250,000 Georgians who are uninsured 10 years after the Affordable Care Act was enacted. I want to get them health insurance. Josh Uden, who ran in the Democrat primary, is a health insurance agent. Other health insurance agents in the district, I've talked to them, they're ready to go sell health insurance policies, but they need flexibility. I want to get 90% of early admissions for Georgia residents. I'd like to recreate Milton County. I'd like to lower the state income tax. I would like to have more patience and communication and consensus at the state capitol. And I want to be a good listener for North Fulton and hear what your local elected officials want done at the Capitol and be able to deliver on it and not, lose votes 35 to 20.
Candidate Au, you have 1 minute remaining to rebut.
Thank you. Now let's be clear about what we're talking about when we talk about insurance agents trying to sell more patients health insurance. Not all health insurance policies are created the same. And in fact, many of Governor Kemp's moves actually loosen restrictions on the type of health insurance that can be sold and actually sells patients a bill of goods. These are junk insurance policies that do not cover basic essential medical services. And all we have to do is look forward to, if the ACA gets overturned, what kind of health protections patients are going to have. You can call something health insurance, but if basic medical urgent procedures are not covered, then it really doesn't cover anything at all.
Thank you, Candidate O. Candidate Reeves, if we were to have an FDA-approved COVID-19 vaccine available in the spring for Georgia residents, should it be mandatory for all residents of Georgia with no exceptions? If yes, why? If not, why not?
I recently had a chance to look at the CDC guidelines on vaccines. And step one, you have clinical trials. There are several going on right now for a COVID vaccine. You reach the point of FDA approval. You have monitoring by the FDA for adverse events and side effects for safety purposes. You then have the PRISM review, that's not prison, that's PRISM, and then the CISA review. So those are several steps. And then you reach the final step, the ACIP, Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. And they give a recommendation, and I trust those recommendations. For polio, it's up on the CDC website. There's a 24-page recommendation, but the shorthand is they recommend the polio vaccine for infants, and I fully support that. I'm a Rotarian, and we try to get polio all around the world. On the flu, it's 28 pages long, and they have, at certain ages, guidelines for that. So I'll take what the ACIP recommends, what those doctors and healthcare providers recommend. I'll review it with local primary care doctors in Gwinnett and North Fulton, and I will get the word out on that and fully support it. Now, there will be government funding and logistics issues for the vaccine, and I want to be in the strongest position possible for Fulton and Gwinnett to get that vaccine delivered. I don't want it to go to another county first. I want it here, and I want to get us healthy and get this COVID behind us.
That is your time.
Thank you, Candidate Reeves. Candidate O, I'll repeat the question. If we were to have an FDA-approved COVID-19 vaccine available in the spring for Georgia residents, should it be mandatory for all residents of Georgia with no exceptions? If yes, why? If not, why not? You have 1 minute to respond.
Okay, so in developing a vaccine, there are 3 phases of trials, and some of you may already know this. Phase 1 studies a small number of patients to evaluate the safety and dosing of the drug. Phase 2 studies more patients to assess the effectiveness, see if the medication actually is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Currently for the vaccine, we're in phase 3 trials for a couple of different pharmaceutical companies. Has the largest number of patients. It confirms that the drug is able to be effective and actually protect patients against COVID. Now, in terms of if it becomes effective and if it should be mandatory, I think we really have to look at a lot of different things. I think the data needs to be transparent. I think in this era of partisan politics infecting science and healthcare and public health, people are understandably developing a lot of distrust of public health. And the key lever of public health is trust. People need to buy into a measure in order for it to fully work. So I would want the data to be fully transparent, and I would want medical experts from the CDC, from NIAID to speak to these issues and engender trust in the cure.
Thank you, candidate. That is your time.
Thank you.
Okay, candidate Au, where do you stand on the issue of decriminalizing marijuana for medical and/or recreational purposes?
So I'm an anesthesiologist, and part of being an anesthesiologist is working with opioid-based pain medications, okay? Now we're aware that in this country, there is an opioid crisis. And I think that part of this stemmed from in the 90s when OxyContin first came out, it was marketed as a cure for addiction, and it was mishandled in a lot of different ways. So anyway, this is an opioid crisis that we've seeded partially from the culture of the medical community, and where we're trying to dig ourselves out of right now. I think with cannabis and medical marijuana, there are a lot of medical indications that we should consider. I've looked at many of them, particularly with respect to pain receptors, with respect to Marinol helping with appetite suppression in terms of cancer patients, these types of things. I think there is a good use for medically regulated cannabinoid therapy in the United States. In terms of if I would support the decriminalization of marijuana, I think that marijuana criminalization has created a lot of problems in our criminal justice system. It's filled up our jails with nonviolent offenders. It's cost a lot of money, and it's not criminalizing marijuana doesn't serve the purpose of making our streets and our communities safer. So both from a medical standpoint and from a criminal justice standpoint, yes, I would consider the decriminalization of marijuana and studying its use for therapeutic purposes.
Thank you, candidate Au. Candidate Reeves, I'll repeat the question for you. Where do you stand on the issue of decriminalizing marijuana for medical and/or recreational purposes? You have 1 minute for your response.
Let me be very clear. There is a big difference in medical CBD and marijuana and recreational, in my view. On the medical part, I think that we ought to continue to look at examples around the 50 states, around the world, to see if it's safe and beneficial, and I'm open to that. I want to hear more from doctors and the long-term effects. I don't want to be the guinea pigs here in Georgia on this. We're seeing some things play out, and I want to get more science and medicine on medical use. However, on drugs, I'm with young people. I have 2 teenagers and one about to enter those teenage years. I want to make it clear, as a state senator, I will promote healthy living and good health, and we need to defer. I have great latitude and freedom for adults, but for young people, say no to drugs, and we ought not have recreational use of drugs and vaping and things like that.
That is your time.
Candidate Au, you have 1 minute remaining to rebut.
Again, I think the decriminalization of small quantities of cannabis product for personal use could have several benefits. One is that Georgia could boost its economy through taxation and regulation of this medication. And also we could, again, reduce prison overcrowding that can be attributed to nonviolent marijuana possession charges. And also we should really point out that marijuana criminalization really disproportionately affects communities of color. Okay, so we really need to look at this piece of it also as a part of a larger social justice piece in terms of criminal justice reform.
You candidate Au.
Thank you. Candidate Reeves, if you were granted the ability to push through one piece of legislation with no barriers, a guaranteed passage through the House and Senate and the governor's signature, what would it be and why?
I used a little bit of time on this earlier, but I'll expand on it a little bit. I think the 90% of early admissions for Georgia residents is important. That would benefit Gwinnett and North Fulton greatly. Other states do that. They put their in-state residents first, and I would support that. As a UGA grad, I think that'd be a beneficial change that would also help our area. Also, higher ed has an economic development component. I want to keep our best and brightest here in Georgia for the sake of our workforce and our future. Recreating Milton County, I think that having good local government and making sure that North Fulton is heard is important. Nonpartisan local offices and making sure we have good government in Georgia's largest county, Fulton County, and probably soon to be largest county, Gwinnett County, is important. Also, getting more Georgians insured with health insurance and not forcing them onto Medicaid after Washington, D.C. broke its promise and failed to deliver on health insurance after 10 years. So those are a few of the things that I'd like to do. But again, in the state Senate, you've got to get it past the House. You got to get it past the Senate. You got to get it signed by the governor. I'm prepared to go through those steps. I've worked down there at the Capitol before, and being in the majority in the state Senate will let our voice be heard strongest. And that's what I want to go do for North Fulton.
Thank you, Candidate Reeves. Candidate O, we asked Candidate Reeves if he were granted the ability to push through one piece of legislation with no barriers, a guaranteed passage through the House and Senate and the governor's signature, what would it be and why?
Okay, she said a couple of different things, but I just want to go back to clarify this issue of Medicaid expansion, because I don't think that it's maybe entirely clear to Mr. Reeves what this is. What Medicaid full expansion is under the ACA is that it expands Medicaid to cover people up to 138% above the federal poverty level, okay? And what this would mean is someone who's making about $17,000 a year, so this is a low-income person, okay? Full Medicaid expansion would cover an additional almost 500,000 Georgians in a time of pandemic when unemployment rates are so high. I think this is critical, okay? This is not a matter of forcing people on Medicaid, right? These are people who do not have insurance, who are low-income people who do not qualify at present. There's no coercion to it. This is simply a way to create a healthier state, a healthier economy, a state that is friendly to businesses to come in, because businesses want to come into states that have better healthcare provisions. So just to clarify exactly what Medicaid expansion is and what it is not.
Thank you, Candidate O. Candidate Reeves, you have 1 minute to respond to Candidate O.
Sure. I want to get health insurance for Georgians. I want pre-existing condition coverage. I want students to be covered until they're 25 under their parents' plan. That's not Medicaid. I want to make sure that the million Georgians above age 18 who don't have a high school diploma or a GED are able to get one at a technical school so they could get a job with health insurance coverage. That's our ticket to getting people covered in addition to Medicaid waivers. Ask a Medicaid recipient or their doctor about Medicaid currently, and they will say there is great room for improvement. We need to improve the system for the sake of the people who are already on it. And Georgians deserve better than Medicaid, the victims of broken promises by Washington. Big government is not the right prescription. Also, Florida, Texas, and North Carolina have not done Medicaid expansion, and they are competing with Georgia for jobs. Those are the states with the jobs. The states that have gone the Medicaid expansion route are having budget problems, and they don't have as robust of an economy as we do here in Georgia, Texas, Florida, North Carolina.
That is your time.
Candidate Al, recently there's been a massive rise in riots after wrongful police violence in many cities throughout the United States, including Atlanta. How would you improve the current policing system, and do you approve of defunding the police or restructuring budgets as potential solutions?
Thank you for that question. And I just want to make this very clear, because sometimes I think that this is misrepresented. I do not support defunding the police. I think that there have been many situations in this country recently where we have had protests related to racial injustice that we've seen recently, particularly with the Breonna Taylor verdict that's been, laid down. Sorry, I'm having a problem with my computer. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Can I pause my time? My computer just shut off. I'm sorry, my screen was shut off. I apologize. Hold on. I can't see anyone. Let me just fix this. Okay. All right. I think I fixed it. I apologize. Okay. So as a citizen, as a mom in this community, I'm absolutely in favor of having a police force to keep the peace and protect our communities. I also think that police brutality is a problem and that criminal justice reform is required. And I think that we need some nuance when we talk about this, because it is possible to believe both of these things at the same time. And I think it's possible to develop solutions that keep both of these things in mind. I think political discussions often are framed in the binary. That's always yes, no.
That is your time.
Oh, sorry, my timer still says 30 seconds.
We were off from last time. But in the interest of time, I think it's best we move forward. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, candidate Au. Candidate Reeves, I'll repeat the question for you. Recently, there's been a massive rise in riots and violence after wrongful police violence in many cities throughout the United States, including Atlanta. How would you improve the current policing system? And do you approve defunding the police or restructuring police budgets as potential solutions?
Georgia has been a leader in criminal justice reform over the last decade. I want to keep that up. There is room for improvement. We can have safe communities and have police respecting citizens. But again, look at the big blue wave on her wall. She retweets that police brutality is rampant. It is not. When police brutality happens, it's a tragedy. It needs to end, but it is not rampant. And our law enforcement in Johns Creek, Duluth, Suwanee, and other cities deserve better than that from their state senator. The Bill of Rights, I'm a constitutionalist. The Bill of Rights, half of them involve the police and the government respecting their citizens. And that starts from the state senators. I respect citizens as well as law enforcement. I will make sure that school security officers stay in the Gwinnett schools. The left right now is trying to take them out. They are saying that that creates a school to prison pipeline. That is crazy talk. We need to keep our schools and teachers safe as well as our communities. That's why people move to North Fulton and Gwinnett. And we need to keep it that way with good schools and safe communities.
Thank you, Candidate Reeves. Candidate Au, you have 1 minute remaining to reply.
Thank you. Despite how our Republican counterparts insist on framing it, Democrats are not in favor of fully defunding the police, right? I think that in criminal justice reform, we ultimately require an investment in public funding. So what that means is this requires more money, okay? Because some of the measures to end police brutality that we're looking at, such as body cameras, de-escalation training, implicit bias education, this requires more investment in police departments, not less. We have to consider, though, also as a society that we use police forces as a catch-all service that they're not entirely suited to handle. And this needs to change, right? Like at a hospital, the answer to everything isn't surgery. There's other solutions. So we need to invest in resources like mental health outreach and social work. I also think we need to take a good look at the systemic inequities that underlies many institutions in our society, and this includes the healthcare system as well as the criminal justice system. It's a more nuanced answer than some would give, but complex issues require critical thinking and broader-based solutions.
Thank you, Candidate O. Candidate, we would like to give you this opportunity to ask Candidate O a question.
Sure. During the pandemic, the legislature was in session and state revenues were already dropping. There was great stress. We have a balanced budget requirement in the state. The state legislature, with Republican leadership, cut state legislators' pay for the public service. 100% of the Republicans in the state Senate voted to cut their own pay. 90% or more of the Democrats in the state Senate, the 21 who were there, voted not to cut their own pay during a global coronavirus pandemic and the related state of Georgia budget problems. Were the Democrats in the Senate wrong to decline to cut their own pay to balance the budget during the pandemic?
No, I don't think they were wrong, and let me tell you why. The pay for a state senator or state representative is about $17,000 a year, okay? So in terms of cutting the pay as a means of offsetting the cuts that we were making in our budget was a bit of theatrics. I think that they put this up as a way to, symbolize that they were cutting a lot more than they were, because the amount that they would be cutting was really a drop in the bucket. And I think that for my Democratic colleagues, what we have to consider is this. The state Senate and the state legislature should not be the purview purely of people who are of means, should not be the purview purely of people who are retired or older or wealthy, right? We should make it possible for younger people, people who are social workers and teachers and people who don't have as much accumulated wealth to be able to run. And we also have to respect the job that they're able to do in this very demanding part-time position. So I don't disagree with them for standing that line, because I think that the cuts and the increased revenue need to come from other places, and we need to push people harder to look at ways to increase the revenue for the state and balance this budget. You can't cut your way out of a recession, and I think that's what the Republicans have been trying to do, and levying this $1 billion cut in our state public education, making cuts to our public health budget in the midst of a pandemic. these are not the ways to balance a budget, and having a drop in the bucket from cutting a legislature's salary also is not the way. We need to increase revenue by closing some tax loopholes, as we remarked on, and increase revenue those other ways. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Candidate O. Candidate Reeves, you have 1 minute to respond to Candidate O.
You know, the state government budget, there are funds, and there was a fund for the legislature, and you can't, money doesn't grow on trees. You can't just say we're going to raise the tobacco tax and cut unspecified loopholes and money appears. You've got to balance the budget, and the choice was lay off staff or cut staff's pay or cut legislators' pay. Public servants, part-time legislators' pay. I think the Republicans did the right thing in cutting their own pay. And I think that's wrong if you're going into public service in troubled times to decline to cut your own pay and instead expect your staff or basic needs of the legislature to go unmet. I'm going down to the Capitol for public service for North Fulton and Gwinnett, and I will make sure that everybody under that gold dome, if I have anything to do about it, is there for public service and for the public good and not for pay.
Thank you, Kenneth Reeves. Kenneth Out. We would like to give you this opportunity to ask Kenneth Reeves a question.
Sure, I have a couple. I guess, Mr. Reeves, I would like to know what your position is on reproductive freedoms and a woman's right to choose. And this is of particular relevance to me because as a physician and as a woman, this is a very important issue. I think with the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a lot of women are concerned about the state of reproductive freedoms in the future, and particularly in a state like Georgia, which has had such stringent regulation on our reproductive freedoms. We're a little bit concerned about what's to come, especially with our governor having passed this heartbeat bill, which was extremely, again, stringent and restrictive, really one of the most restrictive laws in the nation. Can you speak to that and what your position is?
Absolutely. And was there more than one question? You said you had a couple questions.
No, I had a couple questions. That's the one I picked.
Well, all right. My time's clicking here. So number one, Georgia State Senate doesn't do U.S. Supreme Court. That's a different court. We do confirm the business court, and the business court judge, number one, that was enacted in Georgia, and I think it's a good thing that we did it. Other states don't have that. North Carolina did, and that was a strategic disadvantage, and I'm glad Georgia delivered a business court. The first business court judge went to Mercer with me, Judge Walt Davis. He's a great business court judge, and I'm glad we've got it. Now, on the issue of life, life is sacred. It is a gift. When I was a teenager, I heard a moving talk by Mother Teresa in Washington when she looked folks in the eye in Washington and said, let's have a culture of life and not of death. I think we need to be compassionate to women, help them with prenatal care, help them with birth control other than abortion. Let's help with adoption, foster care. Let's go after child support so that women are not left alone with the state of Georgia to bear the cost of children. But life, I will support life to the maximum extent allowed by law.
Kenneth Out. Now you now have 1 minute to respond to Kenneth.
I wonder how.
And no tax money for abortion. At 5 seconds that I lost.
I'm sorry, it's my time. Thank you, appreciate it. If I could get my time back, that would be great. I just wonder how Mr. Reeves responds to this issue, that the fact that reproductive health care really is healthcare, period, and how can you support healthcare and taking care of people when you're limiting patients' private medical choices? For example, you know, I'm a physician, I practice with patients, and I simply feel that the role of a physician is not to tell patients what choices to make. We're not there to impose our value system on them. So I just wonder how it's right for a government to impose its values on a patient's medical decisions. And I know you mentioned that this is a matter of the Supreme Court, but clearly it's not, because with the heartbeat bill, HB 41 that passed, this clearly had restrictive efforts within the state, even regardless of Roe v. Wade being the rule of the land. I don't know how you feel about removing patient autonomy from this equation. I don't know how you feel about removing informed decision-making from this equation. And I really am curious how you feel about removing the trusted doctor-patient relationship from this equation. Personally, as state senator, I would fight to commit to fight restrictions on reproductive health care rights by providing a science based perspective informed by my decades of experience in medicine and promoting facts, health, and patient care over ideology. Thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
If I can respond, she asked a few more questions. I'd be glad to respond. She had some time left.
I think it's in the interest of time, so thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Reeves, given the recent rise in the so-called cancel culture, an effort which seeks to remove racist references from our daily lives, the tearing down and removal of Confederate monuments and monuments dedicated to historical figures deemed racists, there has been great, sometimes heated debate over whether these efforts should be given legitimacy. Efforts, if any at all, do you believe should be deemed legitimate? Why?
Okay, there were a couple of things going on there. You asked about cancel culture and then removing monuments and things like that. Here's what I was a history major in college, and I think history is important, but what's more important than history is our people in Georgia. I love people. Black lives matter to me. I was born in Americus, Georgia. There are 30 counties in Georgia with fewer than 10,000 people. There's intergenerational poverty. I went to college in Macon. There are a lot of issues down there. Gwinnett County, since I moved out here 17 years ago, has had a decrease in average income. So we got a lot of work to do on social justice issues. And I want to give a shout out to Killer Mike. He opened a black bank, Greenwood Bank. That made my day. I've been talking about that for the last 6 months since civil unrest happened, that we ought to have small business and community banks in the Black and Latino community. We've got several Asian banks, a Chinese bank recently opened in Johns Creek, an Indian bank, Korean. We need to have diplomas. We need to have jobs. We need to have capitalism in all demographic groups in Georgia. We need to have the American dream being realized in every demographic group. And we need to do that by protecting freedom and not taking a turn to big government where you have these elitists who are trying to push big government and left-wing politics on the people who came here to our community and to America to have freedom and the American way of life. We need to love our neighbor.
Candidate Reeves. Candidate O, I'll repeat the question. Given the recent rise in the so-called cancel culture, an effort which seeks to remove racist references from our daily lives, the tearing down and removal of Confederate monuments and monuments dedicated to historical figures deemed racists, there has been great, sometimes heated debate over whether these efforts should be given legitimacy. Which of these efforts, if any at all, do you believe should be deemed legitimate? Why? You have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. And let me answer your question about cancel culture. Cancel culture, as I understand it, is essentially shutting down public figures for having opinions that are different than yours. I think the problematic aspect with cancel culture is that it shuts off conversation, right? I think it inhibits consensus building and it inhibits growth. I think it robs us of the experience of doing the hard work of talking through uncomfortable things. And there are a lot of uncomfortable things to talk about. And it inhibits having both sides come out better at the end of it. Okay, so as a doctor, my goal always is to find workable solutions, as I mentioned, often including seemingly difficult, insurmountable problems. I simply can't do my job while being an absolutist in my approach. So my goal always is to get as close as possible to doing the most good for the greatest number of people. So cancel culture, in the way that I understand it, seems to stymie our ability to do this hard work. It's easier to immediately say no to something or to ignore it because there's, when you say no, there's no more work to be done. You're just done with it, right? The harder job and the job I seek to do is to identify the problem, even when it's uncomfortable, and figure out how to make things better for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate O. Candidate Reeves, you have 1 minute to respond to Candidate O's response.
I think part of bridging the gap is being engaged. And over the last 17 years, every month, every year, I've been engaged in the local community right now, working with the Johns Creek Symphony as their lawyer, member of Perimeter Church in Johns Creek, North Fulton Chamber Board, Gwinnett Rotary Club, the Gwinnett Education SPLOST renewal campaign years ago, and I'm supporting that again this time. I think being engaged in the community, that's a prerequisite for being a state senator, because you can't advocate for people if you don't know them, and you don't get to know them by sitting at home in your basement before the pandemic or once one hits. You got to get out there and be a good listener. You got to be engaged in every aspect of the community and be a good advocate for Suwannee, for Johns Creek, Alpharetta, Duluth, Berkeley Lake, Peachtree Corners, part of Norcross. Lawrenceville, Collins Hill. You got to get to know them to represent them well.
That is your time. We will now move on to the closing statements. Candidates, as a reminder, you have 2 minutes to deliver your statements. Candidate O, you may speak first. Your time starts now.
Great. Thank you so much for having me today. And thank you to our moderators and Ms. Sanders for all their hard work in setting up this debate. It is a lot of hard work, and I really applaud all that you're doing to make our democracy work better. Right? At the end of the day, I want you to walk away from this debate with a value proposition. Get to know me, get to know my opponent, and decide whose work, whose expertise, and whose platform you want to invest in. Okay, I'm a resident of Johns Creek. I'm a wife and a mom. I'm a practicing frontline physician. I'm a public health expert, and I'm the daughter of immigrants. I think the experience that I bring in representing our community is unique in this field, and I think the value I could provide is something we desperately need in this moment. So I'm asking you to put me to work. My goals and my concerns, as you've heard over the past hour, are the same as those of the community. I want to get our economy back on track. I want to focus on the best way to get us through the recovery phase of COVID-19 and not simply by avoiding the science and the facts. I want to build a healthier community by improving our access to healthcare. I'm a second generation Chinese American. In Chinese, we call America Meiguo, which literally means beautiful country. The thing about this beautiful country and the American dream that's at the heart of it is that it's not just a promise, it's an investment, right? We invest ourselves in America, just as America should invest itself in us, in all of us, knowing that ours is a country that's really made stronger when everyone's voices can be heard and when everyone has a seat at the table. Every day I fight for my patients, I fight for my kids to have a healthy, safe future where everyone has a chance to thrive. And with your help, I'd be honored to bring that same commitment and that same fight to the state capitol, where I'd be honored to represent our community and all the people in Senate District 48. And that's why I'm asking you for your vote by November 3rd. Thank you again so much for having me.
Thank you, Candidate O. Candidate Reeves, you may now deliver your statement. Your time begins now.
Thank you for your time. I'd be honored to earn your support for the things that I've talked about tonight, as well as over the last year. I offer a different kind of leadership. We've got too much partisanship, too much big blue wave type mentality, and too much red state mentality. I have been trying to be a bipartisan problem solver, fiscal conservative, focus on common sense and common ground, and get us health care access and quality and affordability that Washington has failed on. I'm asking for your help to be an effective state senator under the Gold Dome and not an ineffective one. I'm asking for your help to be able to win votes in the state Senate rather than lose them 35-21. Some of y'all might have seen Hamilton before COVID hit, and you know, the song in there is, "You want to be in the room when the decision is made." I'm asking for your help to be in the room when the decision is made, to be able to be the strongest voice for North Fulton and Gwinnett County on those quality of life issues that brought our families here. Good schools, good health care, Emory, Johns Creek, Northside, Gwinnett, Duluth, and Lawrenceville. We need to get some transportation solutions, and I want those transportation dollars to go to Gwinnett and North Fulton and not some other county. And public safety. I am unambiguous for criminal justice reform and for the Bill of Rights, but also for respecting our men and women in uniform and not disrespecting them on big blue wave type tweets, liberal tweets. You've got to be an advocate on many issues in the state Senate for the benefit of your community. There are thousands of bills that go through in a term. You can't be a one issue Medicaid expansion candidate and expect to have that give and take that it takes to get good legislation passed. I learned that as the House Judiciary Committee lawyer, and I want to take that experience on the Evidence Code and the House Judiciary Committee for work in our state Senate. Matt Reeves for Senate.com. My website has some videos. Hope to earn your support. Early vote.
All right. So we asked the candidates that afterwards they remain behind so we can take a picture, a group photo. And once again, I'd like to thank both candidates for participating in tonight's debate. I would also like to thank the audience for attending tonight's debate. By being in attendance, you've exercised your civic duties, and we thank you for engaging in matters of the community. I would also like to congratulate the members of the 2020 Johns Creek Student Ambassador Team, as well as Tina Dong on tonight's debate. Finally, I would like to thank Mrs. Irene Sanders for her support and dedication to the promotion of civic engagement, both in our team and the community. One final reminder to the candidates, we ask that you stay on call and that so we can get a group photo. Thank you and good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for the baseballs. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep
All right.
winning.
Let me know and I'll get them to you.
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Three-
So
Oh, okay. 3, 2, 1. Oh, sorry. Okay, there she is, Tina. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Gonna take 1 or 2 more just in case. And last one. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
thank you both for attending tonight. This was very, the kids learned so much by coming up with the questions. I hope that they were exciting for you as they were for the kids. So
Students, they need to put you in charge on the national ones. That'd be a big
good job,
improvement.
both of you. So thank you so much. You guys enjoy your evening. Go Braves, and we will talk to you soon. Okay.
Good job, guys. Have a good night.
Go Braves.
Go Braves.
There we go.
We're all Braves fans tonight.
That's right.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you.